Moines Waterworks Board of Trustees. It's May 28th, 2019. We have an agenda before you. Item 1 is the consent agenda. We will vote on that as a consent agenda. If anyone has, well, let me first get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Anyone have any questions? Ted, is there anything you want to bring specifically out to anyone's attention before?
There's nothing that I need to pull out of this consent agenda.
Anyone else? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the items that are presented in the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay, item 2 is the public comment period. Do we have any members of the public that would like to address the board? Hearing none, we'll go on to item 3, action items. The first is the acceptance of 2017 Crystal Lake Access Gate. Ted?
This is a kind of a small project, but an important one. There's a gate out near Crystal Lake, which is associated with the McMullen treatment plant. It's a site where we have started processing a lot of lime residuals, and so there's a lot of traffic in and out that site on a fairly regular basis, and it's becoming, I won't say a security issue, but a security concern because the gate was open all the time, and so we put in an automated gate and at the same time extended the fiber optic network out to the scale that they use for lime residuals. The project was completed at a good price, and we recommend that the board accept it.
So entertain a motion to accept the 2017 Crystal Lake Access Gate contract completed by Widener Construction in the amount of $100,891.
So
We all
Second.
we have 3 moves.
pick one, please. Graham had it, Dave seconded it. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the 2017 Crystal Lake Access contract completed in the amount of $100,891. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. 2, request authorization to reimburse the city of Des Moines for the water main relocations for, let's see, we're up here, I got, request authorization to solicit bids for Northwest 26th Street feeder main and establish the date of the public hearing as the date of the June 2019 board meeting.
This is a project that will help take water from the Saylorville Water Treatment Plant up to the city of Polk City and reinforce some of the unincorporated areas in Polk County, north of Ankeny. Part of this feeder main was already constructed as part of the project that the county did at the intersection of Northeast 26th and 66th. This is sort of the next phase of that, and then there will also be a booster station that will be part of a separate contract. Polk City will actually be paying about 56% of the cost of this, so just a little bit over half. Engineer's estimate is just over 800,000. Our cost after reimbursement is around 360,000. That cost will help serve those direct customers of ours in Polk County. Staff would recommend authorize solicitation of bids.
Entertain a motion to authorize staff to solicit bids.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions for Ted? If not, then we'll vote on authorizing the staff to solicit bids for the Northwest 26th Street feeder main and establish the date of public hearing as the date of the June 2019 board meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, now we're up to C,
Now we're to
right?
C, that's right.
Okay, C. Request authorization to reimburse the city of Des Moines for water main relocations for Macokota Drive storm sewer box replacement.
Yeah, this is a fairly significant box culvert project that the city of Des Moines is going to do. And as part of that, we are going to replace the existing water main in Macokota and Germania Drive. The city will bid that and award it as part of their contract, and we will reimburse them. The project has already been bid, and so the cost here that we see is based on estimated quantities for the contract. Has it been bid or is it to be bid?
It has been bid.
Okay. So this should be pretty close unless there are changes. Funds will come out of the Des Moines water main replacement budget. Staff would recommend that the board authorize reimbursement of the city for this work.
Entertain a motion to authorize staff to reimburse the city of Des Moines.
So moved.
Second. Any questions for Ted? I didn't understand that, that you said this has been bid, it's close, but what is the variable it is?
Well, the quantities are always estimated in our contracts. We do the best to determine how many of each type of fitting and how many feet of pipe. But that can change a little bit during construction. So the amount can change from the estimate, but what we're looking at here is actual bid prices for estimated quantities. So it should be very close.
And this is the price that we would have anticipated if we would have been doing it ourselves according to schedule?
You know, typically when we do projects as part of the city contract, we save money because we don't have to pay for the surface restoration, the pavement removal and the restoration. So usually we feel that we save some money. Exactly how much is a little hard to say, but we try to get work done as part of the city projects when we can to save that cost of restoration, basically.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to authorize the staff to reimburse the city of Des Moines for water replacement relocation included in the Macokota Drive storm sewer box replacement project. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right. Now we are at item 3E, the Polk County Pumping Station, or D.
Yeah.
Boy, why am I getting that code?
Reimburse this, it's another reimbursement.
Okay, request authorization to reimburse the city of Des Moines for water main relocations for near west side sewer separation, phase 3.
Exactly, we're paying the city for a lot of stuff.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to authorize staff to reimburse the city of Des Moines.
So moved.
Second.
Questions for Ted?
If I give a quick
Yeah.
overview,
Sorry.
no problem. This is a little bit different than the last one. On Macokota up there, we are completely replacing the water main because the sewer runs essentially parallel to the street. In this case, Mike and his staff have looked at this and determined that most of these situations, and I think it said there were 14,
Correct.
14 places where they're essentially crossing the existing water main. They're not paralleling, and so there's not the need to replace long stretches, but we're going to do a number of alterations here. Again, part of the city's contract, and Andrea, in this case, this wouldn't be a case where we would go in and just do individual alterations, obviously. So it isn't a case of we're saving a lot of money by doing it this way, it's just this is really the only way to do it. Engineering makes that determination kind of on a case-by-case basis, but needs to be done. And would suggest that the board authorize us to reimburse the city.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to authorize staff to reimburse the city of Des Moines for water main relocation included in the city's near west side sewer separation phase 3 project. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we are at item 3E, Polk County Pumping Station Storage Tank Fill Line.
Yes.
Talk about this in
I will. This is a project to replace the fill line to the storage tank at the Polk County Pumping Station on Northeast 14th Street. Jenny and her folks in water distribution have been out to repair this main a number of times in recent years. 4 times, I believe, in 2018 they were out to repair a failure on that main. Interesting thing about this site is that there are 3 mains, 24-inch mains on that site that essentially parallel each other. One, this one that takes water into the site from Des Moines, one that brings water out and goes to Ankeny, and one that brings water out and goes to the unincorporated area of Polk County. But only this fill line has been leaking, breaking. I know that engineering has looked at this in some depth. Vern did some analysis here and determined that it would be prudent to replace this one pipe. I believe that there was also some analysis or investigation done to look at the other pipe. Jeff Schramek, who is our corrosion consultant, came and looked at this with our engineering folks, determined that the most appropriate thing to do at this point is to replace this one pipeline on that site. We received 2 bids, one from Rognus, one from OnTrack. We bid both PVC and ductile. What's there is ductile iron pipe. It's corroding, it's broken. The PVC pipe not only is cheaper, but it's hopefully will be more corrosion resistant, and so the recommendation was to replace the main. So.
All right, I'm now going to open the public hearing for comments from the public concerning the project's form of contract, plan and specification, and estimated cost.
Hearing none, I will offer that we have received no public comment outside either.
So I will now close the public hearing. And I would entertain a motion to approve the project's form of contract, plans and specifications, and estimated costs.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this project's form of contract, plans and specifications, and estimated costs. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Would you
I think I got
provide an
I gotta have
analysis of the
myself there,
bids?
Brian. We'll do better on the next one.
Oh,
but-
well, practice.
Yeah, unless anyone has questions, I think
All right.
I do have a question then.
okay.
I had always thought PVC was significantly less expensive. It was only $3,000 on this bid from the ad alternate. Is that common, or any ideas, thoughts as to why that is?
You know, in this size, we honestly don't have a lot of experience with bidding PVC pipe. Our experience has been that in the smaller sizes, but the material is cheaper. The installation cost isn't necessarily a lot cheaper. We like to use PVC because of the corrosion resistant characteristics. I don't know, Mike, do you have other thoughts on the differential there?
No, I think, our experience with the larger PVC pipe is a little bit unique. I think we entertained some bids for the coming Norwalk West Des Moines station. I don't know that we went PVC on that, but this is another example where we probably would look at the difference. And feel like PVC is in our best interest here long term.
So in the future, do you think we will be bidding ductile iron pipes? Or are we just kind of checking it out?
There will be times when we actually have to put ductile iron in place, Sue, but when there's an opportunity to look at the difference, I think there's an opportunity for us to, make another analysis and potentially different judgment.
You look at the price and the most appropriate pipe for the situation.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything else? So now I need a motion to award the Polk County Pumping Station Storage Tank Fill Line contract to, how do you say that?
Rognus.
Rognus Corporation for the base bid PVC pipe for water main in the amount of $463,690 and authorize the chairperson and CEO and general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we're up
We are
at 3D.
that was the one we
We
just did,
just
so now we're
did.
gonna do
Let's do that.
that. Let's do that, yes.
The 2019 Des Moines Water Main Replacement Contract 1, we
Let's go ahead and open let's go through the public hearing part and then we'll.
talk about the bids.
Right.
All right. I'd like to open the public hearing for comments from the public concerning the project's form of contract, plans and specifications, and estimated costs.
And hearing none, I will offer that we have also received no public comments outside of the meeting.
All right, so I will close the public hearing and entertain motion to approve the project's formal contract, plans and specifications, and estimated costs.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the project's formal contract, plans and specifications, and estimated costs. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Now I
Ted,
get
would
to
you
go.
talk about the project and
Yes.
give us the analysis of the bids and make a recommendation?
It would be my pleasure. This is a little bit of an interesting bid for us because we only received one bid, which is unusual, not our preference, but part of our water main replacement program. This is contract one, likely will be the only water main replacement contract that we bid in Des Moines this year because of the fact that we're doing so much other work on city projects around town. Fluor Drive being an example, the one on the Coconut that we just awarded being another example. We had quite a bit of interest in this project. 9 prospective bidders took out plans. But we ended up only getting one bid, and a couple of explanations for that include, one, we required that some of this work be directionally drilled. And while there are a number of contractors who can do directional drilling, it does narrow the field a little bit. The other thing was the piece of this that's on Park Avenue has some impact on Brody Middle School. And it's a lot easier to get a project on a school street done when school is out. And so we've asked them to complete that part of the project while school was out, which is a fairly short time frame, as you can understand. We just, school will be out shortly, and then they're not gonna have to get in there and they're gonna have to get done. So the bottom line is, in all likelihood, it fit into their schedule. They can do the directional drilling. We didn't end up with multiple bids, even though we had 9 bidders. The engineer's estimate for this project was $679,000. We are paying a little bit more than that, but we don't think it's certainly an unreasonable amount above the engineer's estimate. There are two streets on this project, the one on Park Avenue that impacts the middle school. The other one, though, is on 48th Street south of Ingersoll. You may remember that that's a private main that is leaking, and we do need to get that replaced. And that is one of the streets that we're gonna directionally drill, or one of the areas that we're gonna directionally drill. So those residents have all agreed to participate in the project. They've signed agreements. They're gonna pay a small cost share, but we really need to get that done. So all things considered, we think that this is a good bid, a responsive bid, a project that we would recommend that the board go ahead and award.
So it's a little over 100,000 more than what we estimated it was gonna be, but there's a sense of urgency there. We wouldn't try to put it out for another bit because of the timing and everything.
Yeah, and our sense is, especially this year, we would never be able to get it done. We're likely fortunate that this contractor could fit it into their calendar. So then we'd be looking at potentially moving into next year with the leak that we have up on 48th. Delaying a year usually costs us money, even in spite of the fact that it's a little over estimate. Not surprising when there's one bidder that would be a little over.
Sure.
We still feel it's a viable bid and still believe it's the right bid.
Ted,
Yes.
I know that the information of what's going on Park Avenue was shared with the Southwestern Hills Neighborhood Association. And I just wanted to compliment the staff on getting out in front of this with the neighborhood. I was asked if I wanted to come, I sure could, and so the president of Southwestern Hills met with the engineer, helping with her name, it wasn't Jim,
Carla
Carla.
Schumacher.
Yes, and I was just so impressed with the clear communication of what would happen, how the neighbors would be interrupted. That area, we had some problems maybe 4 years ago that staff helped us out with.
Right.
And so it was just great pre-planning, pre-communication. So again, kudos and compliments to the staff for being up front on that.
Thank you, Sue, and I would have to echo that. I think engineering has done a great job in recent years. A better job than I did 20 years ago when I was there. I will have to admit, in terms of communicating to the public and exactly what's going on and holding public meetings so that residents can come and hear. So thank you for mentioning that.
I was just so impressed with the detail and how long they'd be out of service and what they were doing to protect the trees along the way, just everything.
There'll be another round of that, once this is awarded, there'll be essentially a pre-construction meeting with the public. Thursday in here? Okay.
I do have just a general question, it probably goes to this and all of this work, with all of this rain that we've been getting, does that impact the ability to get in and do these things?
It certainly can. When it's actively raining, it will slow them down. The good news about a lot of our water main replacement program is that it's done on the street or off the street. They work from the street. I don't know, honestly, about Park Avenue. Michael, do you know?
I haven't heard any major delays in this construction season due to weather, but I know there's certainly been some times when people have not been working. Whether that's created any delays that are problematic yet, I've heard none of that. I don't suspect that we will see that here, but
No.
let's see what the summer
We'll have the
holds as
street
well.
to work off of. I know I've driven by South Union many times. We're replacing some water main there. And they've completely removed the street. It's another project where we're working on a city project, and it is just an absolute mud hole for several blocks. I suspect they're having some challenges, but hopefully we will.
I would like a motion to approve the general manager's recommendation that we award the 2019 Des Moines water main replacement, contract one, Synergy Contracting LLC in the amount of $790,133.50. And authorize the chairperson and CEO and general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 3G, 2019 Polk County Water Main Replacement Contract 2. I will open the public hearing for comments from the public concerning the project's form of contract, plans and specifications, and estimated cost.
Hearing none, I will share that we have received no public comments outside of the meeting.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing. I'd entertain a motion to approve the project's form of contract, plan and specifications, and estimated cost.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the project's form of contract, plans and specifications, and estimated costs. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
This is another installment of our water main replacement program, the second contract in Polk County. One interesting piece about this, we decided, Michael and his staff, engineering, decided to bid this as a base bid on Northwest 51st place and an alternate on Northwest 49th place. They did that because the Polk County budget is getting full for the year. Not just because of our projects, but because of a couple of other things that the county has going on, specifically a box culvert that they're extending at Highway 415 and 66 that we are likely going to be impacted by and have to spend some money on. That being the case, we wanted to split this up so that unless we got incredibly favorable bids, we could choose only to do a part and not do the other part, just to balance our budget, the amount of work we have in the hopper with the budget that we have available. We actually got pretty good bids on this project, but still, staff is recommending that we award only the base bid of Northwest 51st place. And the reason is to align the book of business we have this year in Polk County with the budget that we have available. That will help us do that, so we would recommend as staff that the board award the alternate bid, or only the base bid on this project.
So that 1.6 was for both.
That was for both. And the low bidder was below that, but even though they were below that, we believe it's prudent to right-size the spending so that we don't go over, knowing that we're gonna have to spend some money in a couple of other places that we hadn't originally anticipated when we did the design.
All right, any other questions? I'd like a motion to award the 2019 Polk County Water Main Replacement Contract 2 to On Track Construction LLC in the amount of $615,615 and authorize the chairperson and CEO and general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? All right. 3H, 2019 to 2020 asphaltic concrete surface patch contract.
Yes. This contract is something we do every year. The folks in water distribution do a lot of maintenance and repairs, main breaks and whatnot. And many of the streets have asphalt overlay that has to be replaced with asphalt. We don't do asphalting as part of our normal operations, and so each year we hire a contractor to place that asphalt for us, to provide the asphalt and to place that. Every year, we get about the same group of folks who did this. G&H and Hills Brothers kind of tend to go back and forth year after year. Once in a while, one of the other folks will get in, but this year, it looks like G&H was low again. Done a lot of work for us in the past, and we would recommend we work with them. H.
Oh my gosh. Don't worry about me. I'll entertain a motion to award the asphalt and concrete surface patch contract for 2019 to 2020 to G&H Asphalt in the amount of $188,400.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 3 aye. 2019 to 2020 concrete contract.
Very similar to the last one, Diane, this is a contract to simply purchase concrete that we use primarily in surface restoration related to maintenance. We bid this every year. Again, typically the same cast of characters, it moves around a little bit. CTI Ready Mix was our contractor most recently, and they are the low bidder again. The one thing I would add, if you look at the bullet point right above the chart there, historically, we have worked with the city of Des Moines. They have a truck that will come and produce very small quantities of concrete kind of on the spot. And they provide that very small quantity of concrete at a significantly lower price than the batch plants will deliver that small of a load. And so we will continue to use them. Sue, I think if I remember correctly, working with the city on that was something that you encouraged us to look into many years ago, and it's been very successful. And I think every year since then, we have used the city to provide those very small loads of concrete at a very attractive price. But that's a bit of an aside. We are here to award the rest of the concrete to CTI.
Ted, I also wondered on the previous one with asphalt, if we had any way that we could work with the city of Des Moines on that.
We have asked them several times, Sue, if we could work with them on that, and we haven't been able to manage the same kind of agreement there. Might not hurt to look into it, and I can ask Jenny to follow up with them. But every few years, we reach out to them. It's a little bit of a different situation. We have worked very successfully, engineering has worked with Polk County. They have a large volume asphalt contract. They won't do our little patches, but for instance, when we did the park roads, maybe some things at Method Reservoir. Yeah, we've done some large projects, and we've been able to take great advantage of the county's contracts. But nothing on our small patches, nobody wants those, at least not yet.
May I have a motion to award the 2019 to 2020 concrete contract to CTI Ready Mix in the amount of $228,710.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did you read the right dollar amount on that, Counselor?
No.
No, I think our dollar amount, just for the record, was incorrect.
Perhaps we should restate it. I
Okay,
missed that, I'm
if we
sorry.
could.
$228,710.
Okay,
So I moved it.
perfect. I may have heard something wrong, I'm sorry.
Item 3J, resolution for adoption of the Polk County multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan.
Yes, the multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan is a plan that's a requirement of the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. Each county has to put together their plan. Polk County has done that. We, as Des Moines Waterworks, Vern Rash, again, participated in the development of that plan initially and in the update of that plan most recently. And now the board has the opportunity to adopt the plan by resolution. And I would call this adoption sort of like a prerequisite. It doesn't obligate us to apply for any of the grant funding or to use grant funding. It doesn't guarantee us to get any funding from any certain source, but it is a prerequisite for certain types of funding. And so if we want to be eligible for certain pools of money, we have to adopt this resolution and be part of the group that's participating in this multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. We did have a presentation at the planning committee meeting. We have some specific projects that we've identified as hazard mitigation projects. We would recommend that the board adopt the resolution as a prerequisite should funds become available that we would be able to use for those projects. And the resolution is attached.
I have a question, and that is, who is it on staff that follows the availability of these dollars?
You know, it isn't one person. I would say that the engineering is probably most engaged in that, given their participation in not only the planning, but also the design and construction of the improvements that we've identified as mitigation projects. Finance is probably also has their finger on the pulse. Peggy or Mike, would you have anything to add to that?
I'll add, finance is more, after the fact, once the project has been identified, for instance, that it would be available for funding, then we are the ones, I'm actually the designated, if it's FEMA, all the paperwork has to be signed by me, we track it, et cetera. So the project identification is elsewhere, but chasing the paperwork and meeting all the filing deadlines, et cetera, becomes our burden.
All I would add is I think most of our participation in the past regarding FEMA-related funds has been after the fact. As we become more knowledgeable about this plan, I think we have a potential opportunity to maybe pursue some funds through this more proactive approach. I won't say we have experience doing that proactively in the past, and it may come with enough burdens that we would question the value of it, but we should remain open-minded and potentially use this as an opportunity.
Yeah, my question went to who follows all of those, I'm sure, those funding opportunities. I don't know if they come out in the Federal Register or where they are, but I'm sure it's, how do you go about it?
And working with the county, we become aware from time to time of funding that they're going to use for their project. And just going through this process, we learned from the presentations and opportunities that are out there. Because of the challenges that we've had in using that funding in the past, we haven't pursued it very aggressively, I will say. But adopting a resolution is sort of a no-cost prerequisite. It puts us in the game at least for the future.
Do you have to do it, do you do it once, do you have to do it again?
It's not,
I believe it's going to be project-specific in regard to this.
but I mean, adoption of this resolution, I don't think it's an annual thing, is it?
Every 5 years,
Yes,
they
it's
rewrite the plan.
Yeah, they have to the whole county has to redo their plan, and then we have to adopt it each time it's redone.
This is probably the third or fourth time.
Any other questions?
And I might observe that the resolution is actually the full text that's attached to the board materials. And the motion might refer to the written materials in front of the board, or if board members wish, it could be read out in full text.
Let's not do that. Or did I say that out loud?
I think so.
About 9 paragraphs with whereas, now therefore.
The minutes of the meeting will contain the full text. And
Okay.
every board member has the full text
Yes.
in writing in front of them, I believe.
So I will take a motion to adopt the attached resolution, making Des Moines Waterworks eligible to request available hazard assistance mitigation grants for qualified projects.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the Polk County multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. All in favor? Opposed? All right, those are the action items. We'll move into the information items and board committee reports. Planning committee,
I guess Angela got to second our mitigation plan that we just talked about. And the other items we talked about were the hazardous waste coming off the airport and the zoo. Do you have anything you'd like to tell the board about any one of those things, Ted?
Unfortunately, I don't have any update on the zoo.
I do.
Oh, good, good. Would you like to share that now?
Sure. Well, remember how I told everyone at our customer relations meeting that the zoo thought they had a solution and that they were going to approach the city of Des Moines? That solution, which seemed to make total sense, was the zoo wanted to conserve water. They understand the value of water. And so they were hoping that the city of Des Moines would offset their water bill by an appropriate amount, which would be the insurance. And I think I shared that with all of you. And so the zoo had contacted the city of Des Moines saying, if you pay the insurance, we will pay the full water bill because we want to look at conservation methods. So I felt really good when I shared that with all of you. I have since then learned that that was not well received by the city of Des Moines, that because they are self-insured with a deductibility, I think, of $100,000, it may be $50,000, but regardless, it was not financially feasible. So then I had a call last week from Joe Gatto, and he wanted to know how the board reacted to the last proposal we received from the city of Des Moines, and I said we hadn't received one. So he was surprised to learn that and shared with me that the proposal he had understood was that the zoo would pay for 20% of their water and that we would pay for the rest. And I said, how long? And he said, forever. And I said, as one board member, I can tell you I'm not gonna vote for that because you have the zoo, the entity that's using the water, saying we want to implement conservation methods, we think there's a better way to do it. And as we are prioritizing within our board regional water discussions, I don't think this is something that we want to tie our hands without knowing, what Des Moines Waterworks is going to cover. So it is my understanding that there were some people on the zoo board very upset, and they are writing letters to the editor, and so just kind of as a heads up, there may be some
Upset because
additional press.
we weren't excited about the 80-20, or upset
No.
because the city wasn't excited about the insurance?
It had nothing to do with us.
Okay.
They felt that we were, and this is just coming from the leadership, but I was just surprised to hear that the city thought they had given us a proposal, and I said, we keep looking for that. Diane and I were at a meeting in December, and we were told we'd have one by, in worst case, the middle of January, but we have yet to receive anything, as far as I know, correct, Ted? In
Nothing
writing.
that I've
if you recall, we sent a letter.
We did send a letter with our proposal.
Do you want to refresh on what our proposal is?
Our proposal was that the zoo would begin to pay their water bill at a date to be determined. And they would pay 10%, followed by 20%, increasing 10% each year until they got to 100%. So basically, it was a 10-year ramp up with some amount of look back or forgiveness of what they haven't paid to date, but that ultimately they would pay their water, which we felt would encourage conservation.
It was also pointed out that was consistent with the mechanical treatment of the botanical center.
Exactly.
So Ted, did the zoo board receive that, or did it go only to the city?
We copied this.
Yeah, I would have to check.
I think we did copy
Copy
the
the
Zoom
zoo
board.
board.
Okay. It might be helpful just to make sure that a copy of that goes to Peg Armstrong Gustafson, because I've tried to keep her in the loop as
Right,
she
right.
has shared information.
Yeah, and I think I
with us.
did send her that attachment.
So with our proposal, who is making this decision on that? Wouldn't it be the zoo board that made that decision? To accept it? Yeah.
Yes.
So the city wouldn't necessarily need to be in the middle of that conversation.
Other than, I think that the zoo does not feel they have adequate funding
Sure.
to accept that proposal unless they get
Sure.
this insurance offset.
Which is
Sure.
why they went to the city.
Okay.
So we've received no response to that,
None that I.
and I can't, it's been some time since that was.
I think if memory serves me right, we sent that out. And then it was that time that the mayor said he would kind of take the lead and respond to us. And I don't think we've ever heard back. Am I misunderstanding that?
The never heard back part is,
Yeah, I don't know.
I agree with that. I wasn't
I-
party to the
But
mayor's
I'm
discussion.
pretty sure that was the time where the city manager said, the mayor's taking the lead on this, and the mayor said he was taking the lead on this, and then I don't think much has happened this spring.
Well, except, and I hope you know.
Except for the Zoom board.
Well, except for the city, when, when Scott Sanders also had floated that you guys just cover the cost of the bill and this 80-20, which again, I said I can't speak for the board, but I don't think that's where we were trying to go.
I see that's a little facetiously, but if the city wants to do the 80-20, are there other areas where we could call in?
We have withheld the pilot.
Beyond that though, like in a more permanent fashion,
I think we're waiting
yeah.
for some kind of response. And that was, I also had a call from the mayor this week and said, you know, we've sent a letter and we're waiting for a response.
You know, Joe Gatto,
they're not
it's
authorized.
his ward, and so he is, I mean, there are so many great things that the zoo does, and I think
Absolutely.
Joe is, you know, trying to help facilitate that, but I think he also feels like his hands are a little bit tied because of this commitment, like Diane said, that a formal
Sure.
proposal is to come to us.
Which is why we would call pilot funds, because we're the only ones that have a financial loss here.
And I shared that with Scott Sanders when I saw him, and he was not aware of that. And so then I did ask Ted to go back and ensure that that is the case, and we did in fact withhold funding, so. There is another just kind of interesting point that I think, you know, as this has been in the press, Peg Armstrong Gustafson shared with me that she had a call or was visiting with Scott Racker, and that Scott Racker, I think you all know, is very close to the Ray family, and Billy Ray had expressed concern to Scott when she saw the article in the paper, because she at that time was on the board, and she specifically recalled the deal that the city had given the Sioux Foundation, and that would be that the city of Des Moines would cover the water. So I encouraged Peg to get with Scott and to provide that, you know, link up, if you would, what had been remembered by someone who was on the board at the time. I don't know where that is, but I thought that was interesting.
Can you remind me what the outstanding bill is?
70,000
$70,000,
so far.
yeah, their bill is $7,000 or $8,000 a month. And so it depends on, you know, they haven't paid for water ever. And then there was a period of time where they were a separate entity, they were no longer a department of the city, and I don't know, that was many years, Amy, do you know?
2003?
That seems right.
But since the time that this was discovered that they weren't paying and they should be paying, we're another 70 or 80,000 that was accumulated.
Okay. So it's 70 or 80,000 since we started keeping track.
In 9 months.
Okay.
It's about 8 to 10,000 a month.
Okay.
But this board took action effective, there was a certain date waiving the past due, in hopes that we could come to
Sure.
a resolution.
Okay, we
And I
got
wanna say that was September of last year.
Okay.
Correct.
That waiver was kind of conditional, wasn't it, on them paying going forward, so.
On
Yes.
finding a resolution, absolutely.
To the bill going forward.
Okay, thank you.
So it remains an ongoing issue. Finance and Audit Committee.
Yeah, if anyone has any ideas on this, I mean, that we can help the zoo, they're really looking for a solution. And, you know, they give away so many tickets a year. They're already going to Polk County for some additional enhancements and things, so.
Did they discuss any, when they said that they were really interested in looking for conservation efforts? I mean, did they discuss any of what those conservation efforts would be? I know there's probably, it's gonna, you know, US to spend money, to save money in a sense, if they wanna do some conservation efforts, but.
Had you talked to them?
I did talk to them at some length, and there are a couple of the exhibits there that use significant water, the sea lion tank and the penguins. And they literally flow water through them continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which uses an enormous amount of water. There is an option to filter that water and reuse it as opposed to just continuously wasting it or flowing it through. My discussions with them is, you know, they'd love to do that, but it's, you know, multi-million-dollar implementation, and then there's cost associated, you know, O&M costs for the filters, and some question about whether the quality of the water for the
Sure.
animals would be appropriate. And so, while they certainly support conservation in those couple of instances, they think the cost to them is gonna be comparable, and they'd rather just use the water.
Sure. Okay.
But there are a lot of other places that they may be able to look at conservation. They're interested in that, but we haven't gotten a list beyond those two specific
Yeah, I
spots.
wonder if there's any way that we can help them with any of their efforts or. Okay.
We have had staff, I know engineering had some folks go out and just look at the facilities there, water distribution, customer service, I know, is working with kind of a meter audit. One of the problems they have is they have multiple meters, and they are not sure which facilities receive water from which meter. And so when they try something to see if it conserves water, it doesn't always reflect the way they think it should on the meter because they don't know. So Amy's folks have been out there trying to help them do a meter audit. Jenny's folks have been out there, John West and his group, to do leak detection to make sure that they don't have major leaks, and we didn't find anything. I don't know, Don, if you were involved in that personally, but we did some leak detection out there. We even did some nighttime leak detection out there to try to help them. So we're trying to, we haven't found that one thing yet that's really gonna make a big difference.
But Ted also made the offer, and I communicated it to the zoo, that definitely going forward with whatever the solution is, we would like additional metering. And so that might be something too that we could assist with to help identify where the actual water is used. So we've had some of those discussions. I don't think the consultant that we were waiting on in January, December, ever came back with anything that would provide them with a break even that
Yeah.
would work.
And it was a $1 million capital outlay to do the filtration.
But I think we all wanna help the zoo. We all want, I think the zoo is appreciative of any efforts that we've made. I just wanna make sure that's real clear. And, but I think we have the city kinda caught in the middle of it.
Okay, Finance and Audit.
We, Des Moines Water Works, was approached by the city of Cumming to discuss development fees. And I don't know if we have to go into great detail here, but let Ted and Becky talk about that and discuss that.
Basically, the premise there was Cumming has rather high system development fees, the highest in the metro. They have a developer who wants to develop, and they feel this disadvantaged by those fees, and the city of Cumming had agreed to shift some of that cost to their building permit fee, but reserve payments to the building permit fee for the water system. And then sort of 11th hour, we were asked not to bring that to the board for approval. Amy, do you have any updates or insights on
I probably don't have as many updates as Rick. Their legal counsel reached out to Rick and had some discussions between the two, and my understanding is that their legal counsel said that they had another idea, and could we delay action on that item for a month, and we agreed to do that. Have you heard anything else, Rick?
I have not. I was expecting to hear from the developer's legal counsel, but that has not been arranged. I expect that will happen soon.
And we will wait, and I assume that will be, any new idea will go through the finance and audit committee or customer relations committee, since everyone has been attending those committee meetings. I don't know that we need to do special report except to thank everyone for their time that they've given on that. Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden Board.
I don't have much to report. After many months of chairing the strategic planning process, that's about to conclude this month with the approval by the board. Things tend to be going pretty well there. I think the important part of the strategic planning process to us is that the garden is looking to the future and what happens next, and that includes our relationship as we go through that 10-year process. So.
Campaign for their water.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, that is on their agenda about, how they're going to be self-sufficient going forward. And so that's important. And I think I've related to you, the last year has been very good for them. Attendance numbers are up, membership is up. They were in the black. And so that helps them think about, how they'll be able to take on some of these additional expenses as the years go on. So I would also look for the board to approve the next phase of the garden in the coming weeks or months, which will help them do that.
The Waterworks Park Foundation Board.
I don't know if there's any news other than Ted, if the rain is slowing me down. There's a lot of things scheduled.
There were, I might ask Mike if he has a sense.
I spoke with Don briefly today, and we did not talk about that. They did get a substantial amount of concrete work done before all these heavy storms.
The grass is coming in nicely from my vantage point.
Yeah, I know some of this weather has certainly driven some of the people off that amphitheater. So there's definitely been some, a couple days or more of delays just because it wouldn't be safe to be out there. But as far as wet conditions slowing things down, I can't report that. There is a meeting next Tuesday. We're getting closer, and I don't know, I think I'll just have to delay an update until the meeting next week unless we want Don to provide something.
Ted, somewhat related to that, could you give us an update on the medians? If there is any kind of an update, because now that they are taking many of those out with the construction going on Fluor, I hear a lot of people saying, are they ever coming back? What will happen? I've of course said that we are in negotiation with the city of Des Moines because of the safety issues. So would you give us kind of an update regarding what's going on there?
Sure. Because of the construction and the nature of the traffic control out there, we knew that there was not going to be access to maintain the median planters in the construction zone. So essentially, from Watrous to George Flagg, all of the plant material has been removed from all the planters, including the soil, and they've basically been tarped for this construction season. The rest of the planters are being planted as normal, so those to the south and those at the very north. And We did take the opportunity to visit with the city and with others about the fact that a lot of the planters were challenging for various reasons, and maybe we could consider some alternatives to plantings that were there in the seasonal flower displays. That proposal was not well received. I will say that there's strong desire to maintain basically the status quo in a lot of ways, but Doug Hare was here, and visited with him at length about challenges that we have, not only with safety and traffic control and damage, but also just plant material dying because of the harsh conditions out there and what can be done. He's taken that information back, and they're going to be considering if we should put something different back into those planters that would be more hardy and require less maintenance. We also had some discussions about what might be best for our staff in terms of safety. One thought we've had was police protection. While we're out there working, literally having police presence so that they could calm traffic with the red and blue lights. We're practicing that now, I would say. I don't have a report on how successful that has been, but that's one thing. The other thing that we've talked a little bit about is possibly seeing if we could find a contractor who could bring a much larger crew in and do some of that planting and weeding much more quickly all at once. We've worked very closely with AFSCME on that concept so that they're very confident, I hope, that that has no impact on staffing. We have plenty of work in the park, and we're going to have a lot more when the amphitheater is done. So there's a concept there that we're trying to work through, and there may be some funding available to help with that. So a lot of things going on right now. Mike and I have talked about developing a specification for someone to come and do that work. There could be a lot of benefits if we could get them in and out of there very quickly with a much larger group of people to come in and do that in a few hours instead of us spending day after day after day out there. And then our staff could focus on the design and the oversight and things inside the park. So some concepts out there, Sue, I guess, no final answers yet, but
So many of the planters have been removed. Is it the city's intent to rebuild them as they are, or are they reducing the number of planters?
the material, the plant material has been removed from the planters, but the planters are still there. And so it's their intent to just put the soil and plants back into them. One planter that has been completely removed is just north of George Flagg Parkway.
Right.
And the intent is to rebuild it
Rebuild it.
and replant it after construction.
It was just for lane changing, wasn't it?
That's exactly right, Dave. They wanted the intersection of George Flagg Parkway to function as normal, and then north of that intersection, you've got that crossover to get around the new Wheeling Connector project.
Has there been any talk about how dangerous it is to turn when some of the planters are blocking material?
There has been discussion about that, and we shared all that with Doug Hare when he was here, the specific places that we feel are most challenging for motorists. Also, a couple of places where it's very challenging when we are out there doing our maintenance. And people come over the hill and they see there's maintenance going on and they need to change lanes, but the traffic is backed up, and so they change lanes into a line of traffic, and it creates a number of accidents. We shared all of that. Still not a lot of support for removing the planters or even repurposing at this point.
What is our time frame for resolving this issue?
Well, Des Moines Waterworks is committed to doing the maintenance on Fleur Drive for the calendar year of 2019. What I'm hopeful is that for 2020, the calendar year of 2020, we can pilot test this contracted option. What I'm hopeful we can do is get get a contractor on board to do the planning. We will still do the design, coordination, we'll administer the contract.
And we'll pay for the contract.
You know, not entirely. I mean, it's gonna free up some funds if we don't have to do the traffic control and some of the things we do out on Fluor Drive. So we may have some amount of resource there that we can bring to bear, but it will take resources from other places to make that work.
I just don't wanna get in a position where they rebuild all of that, and then we say we're not doing it, and then they forget we have these, and it goes out that they rebuilt it, and then we said we
Yeah.
wouldn't do it,
I understand. I think they'll remember the meetings, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Laura's not here, do you have anything on?
You know, Laura has done a nice job. I would offer that, there's a memo here that everyone can have a look at unless there's anything in there you wanna talk about. But Laura's the expert anyway. We can follow up with her if you have questions.
Okay, do you have any comments?
I do have just a couple quick things. First of all, you waited through the whole meeting. I wanted to.
That's his reward.
That's his
So
reward,
wanted to
yeah.
see us
yeah.
in
One of the many rewards for being the new union president. Don West is our new union president. I did announce that at the last meeting. Graham, I think you suggested, hey, we should invite him, making sure he knows he's welcome to come to any of our board meetings. Congratulations, Don. He's invited to everyone, yeah. At least this-
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Don, I just hope you realize that we value the relationship that we as a board have with Ashland. I often, speaking for myself, when I tell people about Des Moines Waterworks, one of the things I take great pride in is that relationship that we have. I think we were able to do, great things, and Bill Stowe led us in many ways to get that contract done, multi-year contract, which I think served the union well and it served us well. And so I look forward to continuing that relationship. And, I welcome any input and comments that you have to us to make us do a better job.
And that's what I get from all levels, because going in, there's some things that I didn't know going in, but some people try scare tactics for you not to do it, so that it made it seem like it was a fight. But I think it's more of us all working together on all levels, and I think it's working great. I was really surprised to see it's working really well. I think everybody's working together. Nobody's wanting really to rock the ship. I think that's where we're at, and I think that's great. I think it's gonna be a great future.
Thanks for being here, and thanks for
Thank you.
hanging in there.
Yeah.
One other quick thing, the flood watch, I'll just let you know, the National Weather Service is projecting that the Raccoon River will go back up to 18.4 feet, which is about a foot from where it was earlier in the spring, so fairly significant flooding. Park will remain closed. At that level, Fluor Drive would also close.
We're trying to just close about
Did it?
20 minutes.
Okay.
Or at least KCCI sent out a notice.
Oh, did they?
Closing
Okay.
at 7, I think. 7.
Closes at 7?
We got an email from Chuck.
Okay.
Ted, you know when it gets into the Great Lawn,
You know, the Great Lawn was surrounded at 1905 or 6, the Great Lawn being the beautiful new grass that we have growing out in front of the amphitheater. I believe that this would not get onto the Great Lawn, but if it's gonna rain again tonight, we're right there kind of touch and go. And we're right there kind of touch and go on fairly significant flooding too. I mean, we get used to these 17, 18, 19 foot flood river stages like, this used to be a big deal. It's less of a deal. We've already have the gates closed. They were actually closed for the holiday weekend, so we wouldn't have to worry, but it looks like that will put water on the gates if it gets to 18.4, on the floodgates at the main, or the treatment plant. So we're in flood mode here. And last but not least, relatedly, if it doesn't get out of control flooding, I'm gonna be out of the office for a couple of days this week. trying to find a place for my daughter to live in Austin. If it does get any much higher than that, I probably will let her and her mom look for a place to live. We'll kind of see how it goes.
You have good support.
We have great people here, yeah. If I am gone, Peggy is here and she will be acting on my behalf, but I will send out an email. We got great folks,
Yep.
both in leadership and on staff, who've been through this many, many times before.
We can handle
But we'll kind of see. That's it for me.
All right, in your packet are the contract status spreadsheet and the April 2019 lien certifications and reversals and questions about